Oh, hey everybody, how we doing? Well, I gotta be honest, I'm a little bit gloomy myself. It's that sad time of the year where I gotta take down all my Halloween decorations. Does anybody want a ghost, by the way? This ghost is homeless and has nowhere to go. For only $5 a month, you can adopt your very own ghost. No? Anybody? Okay. Honestly, personally, I think we should restructure the holiday system a little bit. I think there should be not one, but two Halloweens every year. One in October and one in April. That's actually perfect for me because April is my birthday month, so I could celebrate my birthday and Halloween at the same time. Yes. Come on, everybody that has a birthday in April, right? It would be awesome if there was a Halloween in April, right? Absolutely. Let's get on this. What do you think, Barry? Oh, God. Barry's gone. Was he just a hallucination the whole time? It just took 4 years to finally kick in? My God. Okay. This isn't good, guys. Barry might have been kidnapped. We have to mobilize. We have to scour the globe for him. I will not stop until there is a 6-month side story on my channel where Barry is found. Oh, there he is. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Well, I just got done with animal facts. We're not going to be doing anything else for a while. What are we talking about today? All right, SBS 107. Sorry for that little lengthy intro, but as is the case with most SBSs, I think we all know the drill at this point. You got your heavy SBSs and you got your light SBSs. The heavy SBSs are when Oda reveals like big secrets about the One Piece world, stuff that he just couldn't fit into the manga. So like, hey guys, here's just Zoro's entire family tree. Here's his parents' name, his grandparents' name. Just here it is in an SBS. And like, whoa, okay. Or yeah, did you know that Roger had a Saijo Iwazumono grade sword named Ace? I'm like, he did? I'm like, yeah. So yeah, there's those kind of SBSs. And then there's the light SBSs, which are still fun. It's just there's really nothing huge or bombastic that really, he's like, whoa, I didn't know that, in the story or something like that. Holy crap, you mean to tell me that this was Eneru's backstory the whole time? It is like nothing like that, but it's still some fun little things. It adds some character lore and whatnot. So we will dive into SBS 107 today. Honestly, I brought this up before, but I'll just say it again. The cover for Tankobon 107 is just phenomenal. I mean, you got Garp on there, you got Sword, you got Luffy. Luffy's not even really in it, but he's there, Okay, so yeah, let's get started with probably the most important out of all of the questions that were answered. We have two questions that were related to Bonney. Okay, Jewelry Bonney is obviously a main character during the Egghead arc with her connection to Kuma as well as Vegapunk and everything. So the first thing, and I even brought this up in the review, this was a long time coming. It's actually a record setter. This is the name of Jewelry Bonney's devil fruit. It is the Toshi no Mi. Toshi just meaning year or age in Japanese. So it's the year fruit or the age fruit. Now, the name of this fruit isn't really that big of a deal. Like, whoa, nobody expected it to be named that. No, everybody expected it to be named that. However, two interesting things. Number one, that makes Arouge the only member of the Super Rookies that has yet to have his devil fruit revealed. So maybe he'll be relevant in the next arc. I would love, like, they're leaving Egghead going to Elbaf, and then there's another giant ocean typhoon, and then Arouge just pops out of that one. And just, like, that's how they encounter, like, new characters now. Like, the Straw Hats just, like, random characters popping out of the ocean. Like, Mad Monk Arouge, what were you doing in that typhoon? It's like, oh, well, I got a story to tell you. It goes back 15 years when I was one of God's knights at Bierka. What? So hopefully we'll get to Arouge. I mean, I could see Arouge on Elbaf, right? But whatever, that's beside the point. Bonney's fruit sets a new record for the longest time in the manga from when it was revealed. The ability was revealed at the Sabaody Archipelago when she used her power to turn all those Marines into children and old men and escape. All the way till now, when the name is finally revealed. I think it's like 15 years since it's been that. So that's insane. I think the previous record setter of that might have been Doflamingos, because it was a long time. I think it was like 13 years between when the Ito no Mi was first shown, when he was manipulating the Marines at Marijois to attack each other because he was bored, and when Dressrosa finally happened and the name of his fruit was revealed as the string fruit, okay? It's always interesting because Oda even kind of brought it up up here in the question of just kind of like, oh, I haven't revealed that yet? Okay. I think it's with the very simple kind of devil fruits. Like, Doflamingo obviously controls string, Kid obviously manipulates magnetic forces, and Bonney clearly manipulates age. So the fruits are all named. They're nothing unique. It's not like Doflamingo had a mythical zone that allowed him to control string. It's just the string fruit, right? So maybe Oda gets it in his head that it's just like, oh, it's such a simple power, I must have revealed it at some point. I'm not gonna, say it again. Just like, honestly, just have the characters say their devil fruits, whenever they show up, and just like, I am Doflamingo with the power of my Ito Ito no Mi, and then in the next scene, just be like, with my Ito Ito no Mi. Just like, there you go. Then you skip over that. You don't have to worry about the problem. But yeah, so that's Bonnie's devil fruit name. A couple people, and I get messages about this. I saw this on the Reddit. A lot of people seem to be confused between the differences between Bonnie's devil fruit and Shinobu's mature fruit. Okay, so let me just go through that again. Basically, it's the situation that Shinobu's power can age objects and people, but only in one direction, and that is forward. And it's a permanent change. So when she changed Momonosuke from 8 to 28, he can never go back to being a kid again. Even if Bonney were to use her age powers on Momonosuke, he would temporarily go back to being an 8-year-old, but eventually he would go back to being his age that he currently is, which is 28. Okay, that's why Shinobu was so upset when Momonosuke asked her to, age him up so he could actually fight in Wano, because Shinobu understood that this would be giving up his entire childhood, his teenage years, everything would be gone, and he wouldn't be able to get that time back. So effectively, also in a weird way, Shinobu kind of sped up Momonosuke's death. Maybe that's why she was upset about it, because essentially she is shaving 20 years off of his life. So, he's going to die sooner now. Like, chronologically, or I guess, there's chronologically and there's biologically. Let's say Momonosuke lived to the age of 90, okay? Well, if he lived to the age of 90, he would be biologically 90, but in terms of chronologically, actually how much time has passed, he'd only be 70. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of idea what Shinobu did, all right? And so when it comes to Bonnie's power, she can also age people or things, but in both directions. So she can age them up or regress them if she so desires, but it's temporary. At least in the case with living things. Obviously, when she ages, like when she aged that locking mechanism to get into the paw room, she used the oil shock technique. I'm assuming since the lock crumbled into a heap of dust on the floor, I'm assuming that after 5 minutes, the lock is not just gonna like reconstitute itself. With objects, she could pretty much just instantly age like 1,000 years and destroy them, which is actually pretty OP when you think about it. Also, Bonnie's ability gives much more free reign to the aging process, because she's able to control like parallel dimensions and stuff. Like, I'm gonna age Luffy, but not like when he gets old to the point where he's like Garp, when Oda drew Luffy older and he was like, Garp at like age 60 or 70. Instead, she ages Luffy into like a brittle old man, which was like the bad universe. So there's like, the future is not set. It's whatever you make of it, in the words of Doc Brown at the end of Back to the Future Part 3. So Bonnie's ability is actually very similar to the Almighty of Yuha Baha in Bleach, when you really think about it, because Yuha can kind of see all possible, like, parallel, not even really parallel, but all possible futures, springing out from one location, because the future's not just a straight line, it's not linear, it's just like, it branches out like grains of sand or whatever, okay? And so Bonney is able to kind of see the grains of sand and be like, I'm gonna pick a future where I'm super buff, or I'm gonna pick a future where I can run really fast, I've trained in track or whatever, like that's kind of her power, which is pretty useful. I also think that Bonnie's ability might in fact be awakened if she's able to do all that stuff with it, But anyway, yeah, that's just talking about Bonnie's devil fruit a little bit. The other question relating to Bonney is, there was a scene, now Luffy tends to do this often, where he messes up somebody's name. So when Bonney and Luffy and Chopper and Jinbei arrived on Egghead, when they got washed ashore, when Jinbei rescued them, right, and they're kind of drying their clothes and then they're walking up into the island itself, there's a scene where Luffy is like talking about like, oh, why are you here on Egghead, blah blah blah, and then Bonnie's explaining that like, oh, I want to kill Vegapunk because he turned my dad into a cyborg and he lost his humanity and everything. And Luffy Because Luffy is the kind of person that just say things without thinking first. He blurted out like, whoa, your dad's a cyborg? That's so cool! And then Bonney has to be like, yeah, it's really not. It's really not cool. All of his humanity and memories are kind of gone now, so he's just a shell of my father, and he no longer is capable of like love and emotion. So no, Luffy, it's really not that cool. And then instantly after that, Luffy's like, oh, sorry, Boggy. And everyone's like, it's Bonney. And at this point, Oda even specified, okay, the awkwardness levels are insane at this point, all right? The awkwardness levels have risen to a point where even Luffy is aware of them and is like, okay, she's telling me her really sad backstory about her father losing his humanity, and I referred to that as, wow, that's cool, and then I immediately messed up her name. So Luffy at that point was like, right, sorry, Bonney is your name. I will remember this. That is the reason why Luffy consistently remembers her name afterwards, because he really messed up on that first impression. That introduction was awful. Even so bad for Luffy that he's like, okay, yeah, this would be like if, I don't know, man, like you had a loved one that died in a car accident, and it's the first time you're meeting them, and your friends are like, hey, they just had someone die in a car accident last month. Maybe you should, just keep that in mind. It's like, oh, okay. So anyway, what are you driving these days? Oh, sorry, Kyle. It's Kara. Right. Yeah. Anyway, it's just like, yeah, right. Just like, yeah, not cool. So that's Luffy. I find that whole scene in another dimension now that Oda clarified that. Okay, but anyway, those are the questions relating to Bonney, okay? So moving on, we have a kid question. All right, we're talking about Kid now. Good old Eustace Captain Captain Kid. He's a great character, isn't he? Okay, so this was something also that was pretty much confirmed in the chapter. Oda is just like double clarifying it. So when the Shanks's crew were dealing with Kid's crew, I think it was Lucky Roo that was just like, hey, Beckman, Kid's probably really pissed off at you right now, right? The implication being that Beckman was the one that cut off Kid's arm the first time the Red Hair crew and the Kid Pirates ran afoul of each other, okay? It wasn't even Shanks. It wasn't even a guy that's well known for using a sword or a slashing weapon, something that could slice off an arm. Did Ben Beckman slice off Kid's arm with a musket handle? Because that's pretty impressive, though I wouldn't doubt that Beckman would be able to do that, all right? He just goes up and just slams the gun so hard into Kid's arm, it just breaks every bone and just tears it apart. It was not a clean break. Or Beckman is so adept at shots, he just 3 shots that just like severed his arm in one go, right? So yes, it was Ben Beckman that severed Kid's arm. Shanks didn't even have to do anything, which that's how you know Ben Beckman is a very good first mate. He is a good first mate. He knows it's like, don't worry, I got this, right? Okay. So yeah, Kid is probably not very fond of either Beckman or Shanks at this point. And on top of everything, now from what happened at Elbaf, it adds even more to this, where Kid had his arm severed by the first mate of the Red Hair crew, and he's like, oh, there's the Red Hair crew again. Well, we're stronger right now. We beat Big Mom at Wano. We got this. And Killer is in the background even like, Kid, are you sure you want to do this? Because they really kicked your ass last time. You lost an arm. That was a warning. That was a Yonko warning not to mess with these guys anymore. And you're immediately going to go and mess with them again. And Kid is just like, hell yeah, damned punk, bam, bam, And at that point, it's like, no, Shanks had to step in. His first mate stepped in the first time and kind of dealt out a warning, like, you step to us again, we're going to kill you. And Shanks filled out that receipt, as it were. So there you go, right? Moving on, we have a Caribou question. All right, so this is something that I didn't even think about, but all right, here it is. When the Straw Hats were leaving Wano and they were sailing to Egghead, there was the moment where Luffy was talking about his dream. He's like, oh, I've never talked about my dream with you guys? And they're like, no, you've never really said it. We thought your dream was just to become king of the pirates. And he's like, oh, no. I mean, that's part of it, but I guess I told Shanks and Ace and Sabo, and I guess that's it. And so Luffy lays down, and he has the big double-page spread thread where he's like, and that's what I want to do at the end of my dream. And all the Straw Hats have various reactions to that. Well, the Straw Hats weren't the only ones on the Sunny at that point. Caribou was also there, locked in the barrel. Caribou spends a lot of time locked in barrels in this story. But anyway, he was right there. And so the question was, wait a minute, this is a really personal thing that Luffy is sharing with his crew. Did Caribou hear this? So do the people that know Luffy's dream are all of the Straw Hats, Shanks, Sabo, and Ace, who is currently dead, and Caribou. So Oda clarified, oh no, there was even a moment where Caribou was in the barrel and he's like, man, I can barely hear anything in this barrel. And Luffy didn't like shout it to the entire like ship or anything like that. Like, what I want to do is ... No, so Oda clarifies Caribou did not hear Luffy's dream. Honestly, I don't really think it would have mattered much. It would actually be funnier to me if, like, there's one random dude that's not even allied with the Straw Hats heard Luffy's dream. And actually, it would be interesting because whatever Luffy's dream is, whatever it's like, I want to throw a party with everybody in the world. That's a popular one. Or I want to go to space. That's my idea just because I like space. I like the moon. Can we please go to the moon? You know, something ridiculous, something insane, something but also very simplistic and somewhat childish because that's kind of Luffy, right? And, you know, you saw all the different, like, Sanji's reaction to it was like, hey, Chopper, I think you might want to get his head examined. Ha ha ha. And Usopp was even kind of like, whoa, really? And Jinbei was like, you know, at first Jinbei was kind of like, what? But then he was like, I really joined a crazy crew. I love Nami's reaction. Nami's might be my favorite because Nami's reaction of it is such a, like a, Luffy, you are one in a million. There's no one like you, Luffy. You know, she just has that expression where she's just putting her hand on her face and she's just like, I can't believe I'm following you, but you know what? I would have had it no other way. You know, like that kind of stuff. Like, I like that. So it would have been funny to me if you had a complete outsider, somebody that doesn't really know Luffy's personality on that level because they're not really friends. What would Caribou's reaction be with it? Like, what the hell did Straw Hat just say? Party with the world? That guy's, he's got a screw loose. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. It's like, they're just talking about, he might have not even have registered it as something big because that was a really big moment for the Straw Hats when Luffy explained what he wanted at the end of his dream. That was a big, big moment. The chapter was called Luffy's Dream and had a big double-page spread. Caribou's reaction might be like, they're just having small talk right now. They're just talking about nonsense. They're talking about something, like, even if he heard it clearly, would have just been like, whatever, who cares? I got to get out of this barrel. You know what I mean? That would have been interesting to hear his reaction, but no, Caribou did not hear it. Moving on now to the Marine side of things, we're talking about Sword, specifically Koby. This was a question I'm actually really surprised Oda answered this quickly, because this was a question I had, and it was like, okay, well, Koby's dream was to become an admiral, but now he's a member of Sword, and we learned from Aokiji, or Kuzan, I should say, that Sword are basically a member of Marines that have turned in their resignation letters, so if they go rogue and if they do something on their own and they get kidnapped by pirates or, you know, the Yonko or something, the Marines are just able to cut them loose right then and there. So the question was, can Koby still, you know, get promoted? Because if he turned in his resignation letter, he might not even really be an official Marine anymore. So Oda clarifies that, no, in fact, Koby is still a Marine, and he can still get promoted. So he's a captain right now. Next up is Commodore, and then the Admiral classes, okay, which Koby definitely will reach eventually. Koby, after the whole Hachinosu debacle, might already be, like, a Commodore at this moment. Like, he might be a Commodore, like, right now, or a Rear Admiral. Who knows? I think Koby could definitely be a Rear Admiral. There was a while ago, during Wano, there was, like, a misprint in the manga that Oda actually listed he was a Rear Admiral, but then he had to go back and correct it, right? And I think that also might have been the reason why people, maybe the reason Oda had to correct that was because he's a member of Sword and therefore not a Marine anymore that can be promoted. What being a member of Sword even really is the government has Koby's resignation letter on file. Koby wrote out the resignation letter, signed it, and turned it in. So if Koby ever gets kidnapped by a Yonko, which he kind of already did, and, you know, it's like, oh, we're holding your Marine hostage. We're holding Koby, the captain, hostage. The Marines can be like, nope, he is not a Marine anymore. This is his resignation letter. He turned it in right before he left. There it is. He's not a Marine. Our our hands are free of this. You know what I mean? And in the cruel, oppressive world that the world government and by extension the Marines kind of lends to, sword is like a necessity. You kind of need to have this organization that's like, okay, we have to fight outside of the barriers of bureaucracy in order to actually go against the Yonko. The Marines are not allowed to officially roll up to a Yonko base and attack, but they still want to fight. Drake and Koby and Helmeppo even, they all still want to fight the Yonko because those are the major threats in the world. Well, they can't do that officially, so they came up with this sword system, okay? It also seems like sword is more well known than I would have thought it was. I thought sword was like this super black ops like organization inside of the Marines that only like 10 people know about, and that's it. No, it really does seem there's protocol for this. If you want to be a member of sword, probably anybody could become a member as long as they turn in their resignation, but a lot of Marines are not willing to do that. You know what I mean? So that is sword. Koby will still be promoted to Commodore, Rear Admiral. He will eventually become an Admiral itself, probably like in the epilogue of One Piece. I could see him as the Admiral, all that kind of jazz, right? Moving on, we also have Hibari. Okay, so Hibari, as we see here on the cover of 107, you know, she's got a really cool outfit. She also has this little bear, this little blue stuffed bear that's in her backpack, okay? And so somebody asked about that. Like, what's the story behind Hibari's little cute little bear charm she keeps on her backpack? You know, it's adorable. What is it? And so Oda's like, oh, okay, well, here's the story for that. This is like the most intensive lore we're going to get in 107, but it's cool, it's cool. So Hibari has that bear, and she cherishes it as like her good luck charm, but when she was on a battlefield at one point, she had to leave the bear behind. What happened is Koby saved her life on the battlefield and got her out of there, but then she started to cry like, I lost my bear. And so Koby's like, I know what I must do. And so Koby went back to the battlefield to rescue the bear, came back all charred and injured, and his Marines, the Marine hierarchy, like his commanding officer gave him a scolding, and just like, you know, I don't know what, you know, a rank Koby was at this point, like, you know, Master Chief Petty Officer Koby, what are you doing? Go back to that battlefield, blah, 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 blah. And Koby's like, I had to save this bear, sir, it's for Hibari, she really likes that bear, report this, I am Lieutenant Shouting Man. Okay, so, you know, okay. Anyway, Koby got yelled at, but it was okay because he returned the bear to Hibari, and Hibari was like, oh my god, you gave me back my bear, Koby-senpai. I will rename the bear Koby-senpai. So the name of the bear is Koby-senpai, and Oda clarifies at the end, like, I'm not really sure if Hibari is head over heels in love with Koby, because I'm not really great at that sort of thing. Like Oda's like, I'm not really great at writing that sort of thing, so I'm not really sure. I'm really oblivious, so I really don't know. Don't worry, Oda. I will clarify that for you. Hibari is 100% head over heels fallen for Koby, okay? Think about this, okay? They're in the middle of a war zone. Bombs and shit are going off. Heavy artillery, like, hit the deck! Boom! You know, Hibari's getting hit and she's falling. And she has her gun. She's like, oh my god, this is so scary. Why did I join the Marines? You know, and then Koby comes out of nowhere right when a pirate shows up and is about to like stab Hibari. Koby shows up at the last minute and just boom, elbows him in the freaking gut, grabs Hibari. They evac. They get the hell out of there. And then she's there and getting her wounds tended to. And she's like, thank you so much, Koby. I lost my bear. And he's like, leave it to me. And he goes back to the battlefield to get your pet bear. Hibari is crushing on Koby right now. Now, whether or not what's Koby's reaction to that, not sure. But, yeah, Hibari is 100% fallen for Koby after he pulled that. Not one badass move, but two badass moves, okay? Yeah, good for Koby. Good for Koby and Hibari. I hope they have a very happy life together, okay? Moving on from there, we all of what the Admiral's jobs would be in the real world. Oda did this with the Straw Hats a while back and with the Super Rookies. Like, what would Zoro's job be in the real world? He would be a firefighter, okay? Nami would be like a child care worker. Chopper would be an elementary school teacher. Sanji would have been a salon guy. He would have been like a hairdresser. And people are like, well, wouldn't he be a chef? And it's like, I think the idea of that is picking a different profession than what they're doing in the world of One Piece. Because, like, obviously, like, why wouldn't Nami be a weather lady for Channel 6? Because she's a navigator. It's like, if they were going to have, like, a different kind of profession, what would it have been, okay? That's the idea. So in the case with the Admirals, they would be radio talk show hosts. All right, so Oda mentions a show in Japan called All Night Nippon, which is just an all-night talk show. It's like from I think midnight to 5 a.m. where they're just having a call-in show in Japan. So I'm going to go one step further than you, Oda, because we live in the modern day. I'm going to say all 5 of the admirals, I'm including Aokiji in this too, why not? They would be podcasters. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with the podcasters, admirals, okay? It's like the Justice Podcast, all right? With Fleet Admiral Akainu. Akainu's just there in front of the mic, and he's just like, I really don't want to do this right now, but it's part of my job, so I'm here. And then we have Admiral Kizaru, and he's like, hey, everybody, how we all doing tonight? And then we have Fujitora, who's just like, oh, yes, I think we're going to get some lovely questions tonight. Don't you agree, Green Bull? And Green Bull's like, yeah, just hope we don't get any dumbass questions. And then at the very end, they just have Kuzan, who's just like, he's not even really supposed to be here. That would actually make it funnier if in the One Piece world there is a podcast and the admirals were all part of it, including Kuzan, even though he's a pirate, and he still shows up every Sunday night to do the podcast. He's like, hey, guys, how you doing? It's just like, there's just the insane tension in the air where Akainu's just like, hey, man, I might not be part of the Marines anymore. I might be part of Blackbeard's crew, but we agreed to do this podcast. I'm here doing the podcast. All right, that's how it goes, right? Anyway, and I don't know, the questions they would get would all be about justice and the various arguments they would get in. This would be fascinating. I'm picturing not even one table, like a long table. I'm picturing like a round table discussion where the 5 admirals are positioned around it and there's like mics and they just get into shouting matches across the table. Like I don't know. Hello, yes, this is Cynthia from the South Blue. My son is 17 and I just caught him smoking some marijuana. What do you think I should do? And then it's like all the different admirals have different approaches to handling that. Like Akainu's is just like, well, you know what I mean? Absolute justice. That is your house. You will not stand for that shit. You know, you will grab a giant club and you will. I was like, oh, okay. That's Kizaru peeks up. He's like, okay, Akainu, just calm down. Honestly, it's perfectly fine. I can't really see many problems with it. Now, you really shouldn't be smoking a lot of weed, before your brain is fully developed and everything like that, because it can lead to issues, and you should explain that to your son, and you should talk to him about it. You should treat him like an adult. You know what I mean? And then, and I don't know, what would Fujitori's... I don't know, it just keeps going down. Green Bull would obviously just, whatever Akainu's position is, Green Bull would just take it to an even higher level than that, and then I don't know what Aokiji's reaction to that be. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. But it would be funny, is the point. It would be funny, and I would tune in. I would tell you that much. I would tune into that. All right, next up is Prince Grus's backstory, right? Okay, so Prince Grus, or more specifically, why does Prince Grus wear like a baseball cap that has a super long visor? Okay, that's like this long, right? And so Oda clarifies, he's like, well, the reason for that is, see, Prince Grus, when he was a child, he was very gloomy, and he'd always be the kind of kid that would be like looking down at his feet while he was walking because he was just so gloomy. He's just like, oh man, I'm so gloomy today. And so he'd be bumping into things constantly. He would bump into people, he would bump into walls, he would bump into cows, and he would bump into pirates. And one day he was walking down the street and he bumped into a pirate, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And just like, kid, that grabs him and starts beating the crap out of him, right? And so later on, when he's all beat up, his mom is like, okay, maybe if you wear a hat with a really long visor, you'll know when you bump into things. And then Prince Grus wore the hat, and then that's the origin of that. So kind of an interesting way to solve the problem, but okay, it solved the problem. It's all good, right? Okay, there we go. So there's that. Those are like the major questions. Now we get into a little bit of the sketches. Oda did a lot of sketch work in this SBS. The first one is Oda actually, I should have led with this, but Oda drew Eam's face. Someone was like, what if Eam is a dude that just has like a really long upturned like lip? And so, okay, you know what? You laugh at that right now, but I'll tell you what, right? This is probably what Eam actually looks like. Do not put it past Oda to have this actually turn out to be what Eam looks like. Actually, okay, you know what? This is a historical reference, okay? Has anybody ever heard of a thing called the Habsburg jaw? Yeah. See, back in the day, you got a lot of dukes and kings and people that would rule over kingdoms and lands. Well, it's all hereditary, you know. It's like my child will grow up to become the next ruler, and then their child after that, and then their child after that, and then their child after that. Well, some of them were like, hey, we should keep the bloodlines pure. As in, we should keep marriage in the family, as in, like, marrying your cousin, or maybe marrying your sister, or whatever you gotta do to keep the bloodline pure, you know what I mean? So obviously that led to a couple of birth defects, and the Habsburg jaw is one of those, so I don't know, man. I'm seeing parallels with the Tenryobito and the, you know, the world nobles and everything like that. So, you know, maybe Eam does actually have that. Maybe that is how Eam looks. Like, that might be the case. Don't be surprised if that turns it out to be the case, all right? Eam, that Oda just drew his face, just right here. We found out what he looks like. Okay, I mean, Oda didn't really, he actually, the way he answered that was, the question was, oh, maybe Eam has a long upper lip. And then Oda was, I'm just going to leave this message on scene. As if, like, you know, you get a text message from somebody and you don't respond, but you saw it, and it's just like, I'm just going to leave that on scene right now. And I was like, so, hey, who knows? Maybe that's where I was going with it. Next up, we have Vegapunk's head. Somebody questioned, like, okay, when Vegapunk had a giant head that was shaped like a huge light bulb, how did he wash it? How did he wash his head when it was that massive? And Oda is like, you know, Vegapunk is a man of science. He figured out a way. He developed a giant pool, like a little wading pool, where he would soak his head into the pool, and these special kind of fish called scrubber fish would show up, and they're like Brillo pads or like a scrub daddy or whatever, and just scrub up Vegapunk's head. Vegapunk's head was shiny and spotless every single day, okay? Just because he had a giant head and he was really busy doesn't mean he ignored personal hygiene, okay? That's Vegapunk. All right. We got some other stuff. I saw these on Artor's Twitter. He shared these. We have the origin of Buggy's devil fruit, the actual name, Bara Bara. Oda says that it might have subconsciously come from a show he watched when he was a kid. There was a show called Robot 8-chan, and the character was Bara Bara Man that was in the show. And so Oda was like, maybe he wasn't like conscious of it, but he was like, oh, Bara Bara no Mi, Bara Bara Man. That might have been where he got the idea from. Okay, just something he watched when he was growing up. We have the name of Kujaku's whip. So Kujaku, member of Sword, granddaughter of Osuru, the great tactician, has the whip fruit, but also obviously uses a whip with like a sword like hilt. And the name of the whip is Beethoven, because in Japanese, Bei to Ben is military combat whip, so it's a pun. So that's Oda's pun streak continues. It's a solid steel whip that she can even like slice like huge structures apart with, like straight through, okay? I like to think that Kujaku might have had the whip before she had the whip fruit, and maybe at one point, because Osuru is her grandmother, she pulled some strings and found the perfect devil fruit to give her granddaughter. Might have been something like that. Jiron, who is the last vice commander of the Revolutionary Army. So we have a Hiru, and then we had the bowl guy, and then we had the little egg dude. I don't remember their names off the cuff or right off the gate, so I'm not even going to try to. But Jiron was the last one that we did not see before. He just showed up in the manga. He was the one that was like eating the like binoculars when they were observing Sabo return to the Kamabaka Kingdom. So, Jiron, we don't know anything about his devil fruit or anything, but he is probably taken from, or is taken from, a character called Jiron Amos from Combat Mecha Zabungle. Oda was a really big fan of old tokusatsu, like mech anime, not anime, but live action mech shows back in the day. In the case with Robot 8-chan, that was live action. In the case with Robot Mecha Zabungle, that was anime. Personally, I've never really been that into mecha anime. Like, not really. I never really liked Gundam growing up. It's just not for me. I saw a couple episodes of Big O, you know, Evangelion, obviously. I still stay steadfast that Attack on Titan is a mech anime. I mean, it basically is. It's just more gooey and muscly, but it is a mech anime if you really think about it. But other than that, I'm not really that way into like mech anime. So what is your favorite mech anime and why? I'll ask you that. Okay, there you go. So then we have another one that involves Pythagoras. Now this was something that a lot of people pointed out as soon as Pythagoras showed up, because we know, like the fans know that Oda watched those kind of shows growing up. You know, the old tokusatsu shows, right? And so as soon as Pythagoras showed up, they were like, oh, there's a character called Robocon, or I guess, yeah, the character is Robocon, and the show is Gambare Robocon. And Gambare in Japanese just means like hang in there. So like, hang in there, you can do it, Robocon. And so people, I remember like as soon as Pythagoras showed up, people were showing, oh, this is where the reference probably is. And so it is. And so there's the robot, it's Pythagoras, okay? And finally, let's leave it off with there is a background character, actually one of my more favorite background characters that we have seen recently. Remember when Vivi and Wapple was they were at Morgan's place, and they're in the World Economic Journal kind of headquarters, and Vivi is wearing like a different outfit. Like at Reverie, she was wearing the fancy dress, but then she left Reverie, and now she's at Morgan's place, and she's wearing like normal. So in the background, you see one of the reporters for the World Economic Times, like kind of fangirling, like, oh my God, I can't believe Princess Vivi is wearing my clothes. Oh my God. So one of the reporters gave Vivi a change of clothing. Well, that reporter's name is Yaneno Shinode, and she is 24 years old, and she is in charge of the Street Corner collection in the World Economic Journal. She's down there with the regular people, and she's like getting interviews and stuff like that. Street Corner collections. Maybe it's more of a lifestyles kind of section in the paper, something like that. But she's very dedicated to her job, and she's like fangirling over Vivi. And so I really like that character. Even like the one random panel she showed up in, I'm like, okay, that's kind of adorable. That's kind of nice, right? Okay, she's a reporter and really looks up to Vivi, and now Vivi's like, she's like starstruck right now, okay? And Vivi needed a change of clothes, and she's already not happy to be there. Her dad just died. So she's like, okay, how about you give you a change of clothes? And she's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. You know, she doesn't care for Wapple very much, and she doesn't care for Morgan's very much, but the rest of the reporters, I'm sure Vivi gets along with. Okay, so there you go. That is SBS 107. Did it answer all your hard-hitting questions? I mean, it might have if you really cared about the name of the reporter and where Oda got the reference from the Giron and the name of Kujaku's whip, which I know a lot of people were waiting for. Probably the biggest one out of this thing was the Toshi Toshi no Mi with Bonney, and the sword information, and regarding exactly how the structure of sword, how you join sword, and how you like are a part of the Marines and you could still get promoted and stuff like that, and then your resignation letter is just there in case you go rogue and the Marines want to just sever ties with you, right? So those are probably the best ones. But yeah, that was the video. Hope you guys all enjoyed. I don't have to do animal facts anymore. I'm freed. So bye.